Joining me today is Congressman Kevin Brady of the 8th Congressional District of Texas. He's also on the Ways and Means Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thanks for having me, Samantha.
I want to get your thoughts on this Fox News report that actually came out on Wednesday. More than 160,000 illegal immigrants have been released into the United States since March. What are your thoughts on this as a border state, but also just as a U.S. citizen in general?
Yeah, this is every time you think it can't get worse on the border, it does. And again, so much of it's driven by the president and the White House here. We've never seen, Samantha, anything like this before in Texas. We already paid a pretty high price from borders and lack of security. Now with these open borders, it's even worse. And it's just not the humanitarian crisis and those being released, but we're seeing record loads of fentanyl that goes across the country. Sex trafficking, unfortunately, Houston leads the country, in sex trafficking. We're seeing that, plus it's spreading across the country as well. And now, at a time when we need to send the right signals to the rest of the world that these borders are going to be closed, now the White House has announced they're not going to do any more raids on companies that hire illegal workers. And so talk about sending another green light signal to South and Central America and the whole world. Come on, in the US, it's going to make this worse. And we look, it's simple here. You've got to have barriers and walls where it makes sense. You got to have more border agents on the border, not babysitting, kids coming across. You need Remain in Mexico policy. It worked beautifully, but more importantly, you need a White House that actually acknowledges it's got a problem and it's affecting America. I think this is one of the reasons, many reasons, why the president's approval ratings have just tanked in the last 2 months.
Well, you bring up, having barriers and borders. My colleague, Jorge Ventura, has been down in Arizona at the Yuma sector, and he actually took a video of a human smuggler helping 3 individuals actually cross into the United States, which is crazy because he got it all on video. I can bring it up for our audience in a moment, but it was just absolutely incredible to see just how free it is to walk into the United States, despite our borders being closed. At least that's what the administration is telling us. Senator Lindsey Graham recently said that what's going on at the border, this chaos that we're seeing, is another 9/11 in the making. What are the long-term impacts that we could potentially see from this border crisis?
Yeah, so I think you're right. It's been overwhelming and continues that. And when you talk to the border agents, many of them who, by the way, live in the valley, so they're not protecting just the country, they're protecting their communities and their neighborhoods, which why they're so devoted. They're so disheartened by this because there's no end in sight here. And they know it's not just children coming across. These are really big threats entering the United States just with impunity. And we already know that leads to crime and violence and unfortunately deaths in the United States. We know it does from the drugs as well, and then the tragedy of sex trafficking as well. The world's pretty smart. They know if there's an open border and they want to attack America now, especially with the Taliban in control, in Afghanistan, they've got an open invitation. So it should scare the heck out of every American about what the potential risk and danger is from these open borders.
Just one final question for you. Are there any potential incentives included in this reconciliation bill that could be another, I guess you could say, green light for migrants to try and cross the southern border at this point?
Yes, so child tax credit is one of them. Under this bill, no longer will you have to have a Social Security number, to verify that child and you are in the country illegally. You're also seeing ACA, Obamacare subsidies that will go to the wealthy as well. It's another barrier to reconnect to work, but that too no longer has some of the safeguards in there. And of course, with this federal unemployment, we finally ended it, but that's just been a magnet for fraud, both for those in the US and those here illegally as well. So yeah, it's very frustrating for Republicans, I think most Americans, that this giveaway to so many is undermining the progress we've made as a country, to get people back to work under President Trump, to get them higher wages, to grow optimism. Today, I know small business optimism has dropped to the worst in a decade now, and economic optimism from families, again, has just dropped. So it is having an impact. It's discouraging a lot of Americans.